Hey everybody, I'd like to welcome you to my living room. This is my dad Kurt, my brother Byron, and this is my mom Rose. My dad Kurt is our general household mechanic, jack of all trades. He's also the landlord for our business and a master carpenter. My brother Byron here works for a daycare. He drives a school bus and also teaches a preschool class. My mother Rose has a master's degree in education and she is also a preschool teacher. And we're going to get on with the speech. Today we're going to talk about pastors and the role of a pastor. Most people think that a pastor is merely just somebody who gets up every Sunday and talks. What they really don't see is the background and everything else that a pastor actually has to do on any given week. On any given Sunday, a pastor has a lot he has to do. From getting there first thing in the morning to open up the sanctuary, to getting ready a week beforehand just for the sermon itself, to going in and doing funeral services, baptisms, preparing for baptisms, as well as every other facet that actually goes into the pastorate. And today we're going to try to unwrap some of those things. A pastor is more than meets the eye. He really is somebody who has 10 different jobs that he actually has to do on any given week. To look into some of the different things that a pastor has to do, we're going to look at a book by Dr. Ben Gutierrez called The Call. It's one of the books I actually had to read for one of my religion classes. And in the book, Dr. Ben Gutierrez says, "Before I do, I must be." It's a very important phrase in the pastorate because if you don't have the heart of a servant, it's never going to work out for you in ministry. If you don't have the call to serve, if you don't have the ability to be that one person who is going to do anything to help out your congregation, it's really just not a good fit for you. And that's one of the big things that I think that we don't see, that's part of the behind the scenes of being a pastor, is that he really truly has to care for the people that he is actually speaking to. He has to care about their lives. He has to care about their children. He has to care about, when they're on death's bed, whether he's spending 2, maybe 3, maybe as many as 8 hours in the hospital taking care of these people. The next thing that we're going to look at is the changes in ministry. To take a look into that, we have to look at the changes in technology. We're going to go back to Dr. David Early, as well as Dr. Ben Gutierrez again, to look into some of the changes that are going on in our world that have actually affected ministry. Today, versus carrying around just a Bible, you have access to lots and lots of technology in just the palm of your hand. Today, people who are coming in to listen to a sermon might know more about that particular passage of scripture than the pastor does. And that might seem really strange to most people, but it actually can very well be the truth, because on just an iPad, you can access every translation of the Bible, all the different commentaries that are out there, as well as different theological issues with that particular verse of scripture that you might not have known anything about. So a pastor really has to be a very studied person nowadays so that he actually is more knowledgeable than his own congregation. The next thing that we're going to look at is that when going through these changes, sometimes the actual pastorate needs to get bigger. So a lot of people look at a pastorate and they say, well, okay, you have the pastor. What they don't see is that the pastor has a support staff behind him, as well as, because he has several different roles, being the pastor, being the person who goes to the hospital, being the person who does baptisms, being the person who also takes care of the sick and several other aspects in the church, that they don't really get to see all that. So when you take a look deep into what a pastor actually does, you can see that there's constantly changes going on, whether it be because of technology, whether it be because the church changes. That's one of the biggest aspects that's going on in our world today, where the church used to be all Bible-carrying people, to now technology has come in. And that's one of the changes that we really have to be prepared for, and we really, as pastors, people who are going into the pastorate, such as myself, have to watch out for. We have to be prepared for new technology to come in. We have to be prepared to see things that are changing, whether it be multimedia displays, whether it be different aspects, different settings of churches, whether it be churches that are held in traditional churches versus churches that are held in, like some of the churches in Lynchburg, Virginia, that are actually held in bars. The pastor has to be prepared to change and adapt to the world that's around him. And that's just one of several aspects that we're going to look at as we present this speech a little bit further. One of the biggest things that I will say is that because a pastor has more than one job, he really has to be adaptable. And that's one of the things that we're going to deal with a little bit in change, is that if the pastor is not adaptable, if he's not able to say, okay, well, I just got done preaching this really good Easter sermon, but Miss such and such just passed away, and I really need to go speak with her family. That's part of the adaptability of a pastor. He has to be able to leave something that was really great, a big production for an Easter service, and leave and go talk about something that might not be, that's not happy. There's nothing about death that's happy, and he has to be able to change really quickly to be able to go into that setting. So I hope you really enjoyed this speech. I hope you saw maybe just a glimpse into what a pastor actually is, more than just the guy that stands up every Sunday and gives a sermon. And I hope you look more into the topic of what a pastor actually does, as well as the ever-changing roles of a pastor in today's society. Thank you.
I was getting ready to go.